It was Christmas Eve, the most magical night of the year. A night when children go to bed early, excited, hopeful, dreaming of what morning will bring. But for 5 children in a small West Virginia town, Christmas morning never came. Their house caught fire in the middle of the night. The parents escaped. 4 siblings escaped. But 5 children, 5, were never seen again. No bodies, no remains, no evidence they ever burned. Just gone. And for the next 60 years, their mother never stopped believing they were still alive.
Welcome to our channel. If you want more interesting stories, don't forget to subscribe.
Part 1. The Sodder Family. Let me take you back to Fayetteville, West Virginia. The year is 1945. World War II has just ended. America is celebrating. Families are reuniting. And in a modest home on a quiet road, the Sodder family is preparing for Christmas. George Sodder was an Italian immigrant who had come to America with nothing and built everything. He ran a coal trucking business. He owned a comfortable home. He had a loving wife named Jennie, and together they had 10 children. George and Jennie were proud, hard-working, deeply religious people. Their children were their whole world. On the night of December 24th, 1945, Christmas Eve, the house was full of life. The younger children were too excited to sleep. They stayed up late, playing with their Christmas gifts, laughing, running around. George went to bed early. He was tired from work. Jennie stayed up a little longer, then finally went to sleep around midnight. The house was quiet. The family was safe. Or so they thought. Part 2. The Night of the Fire. At around 1 a.m. on Christmas morning, Jennie Sodder woke up to the smell of smoke. She opened her eyes, and her house was on fire. She screamed. George woke up. They grabbed the children closest to them and ran outside into the freezing December night. 4 of the older children, Marion, George Jr., John, and Sylvia, managed to escape on their own. But 5 children were still inside. Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, and Betty, ages 5 to 14. George tried to go back in. The flames were too strong. He tried to get his ladder to reach the upper windows. It was missing from where he always kept it. He tried to start his coal trucks to use them to climb up to the windows. Neither truck would start. Both had been working perfectly the day before. He ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. The call went through. Help was on the way. But the fire department didn't arrive for hours. By the time they came, the house was completely destroyed. And the 5 children? Gone. Not a single trace. Part 3. The investigation begins. The official conclusion came quickly. Fire investigators said the 5 children had died in the blaze. The fire, they claimed, was caused by faulty wiring. Case closed. But George and Jennie Sodder refused to accept it, because something wasn't adding up. First, the bones. A house fire, even a severe one, does not completely destroy human bones. Bones can survive temperatures far beyond what a house fire produces. Investigators found almost nothing, just a small piece of vertebrae and some organs that were later found to belong to someone much older than the children. When the Sodders hired their own investigators and had the remains tested, they did not match any of the 5 children. Second, the ladder and the trucks. George's ladder had vanished from its usual spot, the very night of the fire, and both of his trucks had been working fine just hours before, but wouldn't start when he needed them most. Someone, it seemed, had sabotaged his ability to rescue his children. Third, the fire department. The nearest fire station was just 2.5 miles away, yet they took over 7 hours to arrive. Their explanation? They claimed they never received the call, but the call had gone through. Fourth, strange visitors. In the weeks before the fire, several suspicious people had visited the Sodder home. One man had come to the house asking about work, and while George spoke with him, Jennie noticed the man staring at the children with unusual intensity. Another stranger had come to the house and told George, almost as a warning, that his house would go up in smoke and ash. George had also been publicly critical of Italian dictator Benito Mussolini in the local community. Some believed this had made him enemies. Part 4. The Dark Theories. So if the children didn't die in the fire, where did they go? Theory 1. The children were kidnapped. George and Jennie became convinced their children had been taken, alive, before or during the fire, which was set deliberately to cover the crime. Who would do this? And why? Some investigators pointed to the Italian-American community. George had made enemies. His criticism of Mussolini had angered some powerful men. Was this revenge? Theory 2. The photo. In 1967, 22 years after the fire, Jennie Sodder received an anonymous letter in the mail. Inside was a photograph of a young man. On the back, someone had written, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, Illil boys, a 90132." The young man in the photo bore a striking resemblance to what Louis Sodder would have looked like as an adult. Who sent it? Why? Where was it taken? No one knows. The letter was postmarked from Kentucky. The trail went cold immediately. Jennie kept that photograph for the rest of her life. Theory 3. The telephone lines. On the night of the fire, a witness reported seeing a man near the Sodder property cutting telephone lines just before the fire started. This would explain why the fire department claimed they never received the call. Someone had planned this. Theory 4. The stranger's warning. Remember the man who told George his house would go up in smoke and ash? Police investigated and could never find him. He had simply disappeared, just like the children. Part 5. The family's fight. George and Jennie Sodder never gave up. They erected a billboard on the main highway outside Fayetteville with photographs of their 5 missing children and a reward for any information. That billboard stood for decades. Passing drivers would see the faces of 5 smiling children and the words, "What happened to our children?" George hired private investigators. He wrote letters to senators, governors, the FBI. He spent thousands of dollars chasing leads across the country. He died in 1968, never knowing what happened to his children. Jennie continued the fight alone. She kept the billboard up. She kept the photograph of the young man on her mantle. She never remodeled the property where the house had stood, keeping it as a memorial. Jennie Sodder passed away in 1989. She went to her grave believing her children were alive somewhere, taken from her on Christmas Eve, and that she had simply never been able to find them. The billboard eventually came down, but the case was never solved. 5 children, Christmas Eve, a fire that left no bodies, a photograph received 22 years later, a mother who spent her entire life searching. Was it an accident? Was it murder? Was it a kidnapping orchestrated by powerful men with a grudge? Or did 5 children simply vanish into the flames, leaving behind not a single bone, not a single trace, not a single answer? We don't know. The Sodder case remains one of the most haunting unsolved mysteries in American history. And somewhere out there, if any of those children survived, they would be in their 80s and 90s today. Maybe they know what happened. Maybe they've known all along. If this story stayed with you, you know what to do. Subscribe. New mystery every week. And if you know something about the Sodder children, the case is still technically open.